Winnie the Pooh is a really famous character in a really famous story. And because it's been around for so long, it's now in the public domain, meaning anyone can use the original stories for free. And so today we're going to take a look at Winnie the Pooh by A. Milne. So this is the original Winnie the Pooh story. This is a book that has a bunch of different chapters and a bunch of little stories about Winnie the Pooh, the teddy bear, and some of his friends that he meets along the way. And so we can try reading the first story in the Winnie the Pooh book together. I'm not sure if we'll have time to finish it today, but we can do probably half today and then half another day. So join me as we try this little story. We'll try reading a section and then we can talk about what it says, if there are any tricky words, and then we can read it one more time to practice, okay? So this is a children's story, but that doesn't mean it's super easy because it's any kind of writing can be a little bit tricky, right? And there are lots of words that kids use in daily life that maybe we don't learn from a class or something like that. So it's always good to try reading something new, even if it is for kids, right? So this is Winnie the Pooh by A. Milne. And this story is from, I think, 1926. I should know that. I'm not exactly sure. It's almost 100 years old. Okay. So here's a picture of the star of the show, Winnie the Pooh. He's stuck in a hole. Here's another picture of Winnie flying in the sky, holding onto a balloon. And this little child here, this is Christopher Robin. And Christopher Robin is Winnie's friend. And then the rabbits that are also Winnie's friends. Now, the thing about this boy, Christopher Robin, is he is based on the author's son, I believe. And so the story of Winnie the Pooh is kind of, the way it sounds is like a father reading a story to his child. So it's the father reading to Christopher Robin and telling stories about Winnie the Pooh the bear. So if you see the word I, that's the narrator. The narrator is the person telling the story. And the I in Winnie the Pooh is often the father of Christopher Robin. Okay? But we'll see that as we go. So Winnie the Pooh by A. Milne. And here's a picture of Winnie the Pooh. And it says bath mat, which is something outside of the bathroom. And then here we have a little map of the world. This is where Winnie the Pooh lives. There's the 100-acre wood, which is a forest. And then here's my house, which I think is Christopher Robin's house, not Winnie the Pooh's house. And, Pooh Bear's house is way across over there. And then some of their friends. So let's get into chapter 1. And so hopefully you can see it clearly. I tried to make it so we can fit pictures and the text in the window at the same time. So let me know if it's a little bit small, but hopefully it's okay for you. I hope you're on a big computer screen, not on looking at your phone or something. So this is chapter 1, in which we are introduced to Winnie the Pooh and some bees, and the stories begin. So this chapter will be an introduction. We're going to be introduced to Winnie the Pooh. So we're going to meet Winnie the Pooh, and the author will tell us about Winnie the Pooh. And then some bees, bzzz, and the stories begin. So this is the first chapter in the first story, and the author is telling us that later there will be more stories to come after this one too. Okay. It begins. I'll read the first paragraph, then we'll go back and read it slowly. Here is Edward Bear, coming downstairs now. Bump, 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 on the back of his head, behind Christopher Robin. It is, as far as he knows, the only way of coming downstairs. But sometimes he feels that there really is another way. If only he could stop bumping for a moment and think of it. And then he feels that perhaps there isn't. Anyhow, here he is at the bottom and ready to be introduced to you. Winnie the Pooh. So, let's go slowly through this. So here is Edward Bear. So, who is Edward Bear? Well, this is kind of a tricky idea. You probably know a teddy bear. And that's what Winnie the Pooh is, right? Winnie the Pooh is a teddy bear. Now, why do they call him Edward Bear? Well, the name Edward, if you give someone a nickname, Edward becomes Ted, Ted becomes Teddy. So, Edward becomes Ted, and Ted becomes Teddy. That's a nickname. So you take the name Edward and change it to Ted. And then Ted becomes Teddy. So a teddy bear. And so calling him Edward Bear is actually going backwards. Taking Teddy and then turning it into Edward. So it's kind of a funny way to call a teddy bear Edward Bear. Okay? So here's Edward Bear talking about Winnie the Pooh, the bear. Coming downstairs now. Bump, bump, bump. Now, bump is a sound. I think we've talked about sound words before. Bump is a sound when you hit something lightly. Like he bumped his head. Bump, bump, bump. Okay? And so you can see in the picture, Christopher Robin, this is the boy, is bringing Winnie down the stairs, and Winnie's head is hitting the stairs. And each time it goes bump. Okay? So here's Edward Bear coming downstairs now. Bump, bump, bump. On the back of his head. Behind Christopher Robin. So the back of his head is hitting the stairs. Bump, bump. And it's behind Christopher Robin because Christopher Robin is pulling the bear. So it is, as far as he knows, the only way of coming downstairs. So this way of bumping your head is the only way of coming downstairs. In the middle, we have as far as he knows. This is a good phrase to know. Usually you'll hear people say, as far as I know. Can I fit it here? As far as I know. Not exactly. So I'll put it here. As far as I know, meaning I think this is true, but I am not sure. So you've heard it before, you don't totally know if it's right. Sometimes if you're on the internet, people will write AFAIK to mean as far as I know. It's like, I think this is true, but I'm not completely sure. So it is, as far as he knows, the only way of coming downstairs. So Winnie the Pooh thinks that bumping your head on the stairs is the only way to go downstairs. But sometimes he feels that there really is another way. So this is the only way of going downstairs, but there must be a different way. Maybe. If only he could stop bumping for a moment and think of it. So he's bumping so much that he can't think of a different way to go down the stairs. Maybe it's because he's bumping his head so much, right? Okay. Oh, by the way, if you ever have a question, don't be shy and leave me a question and I'll try to answer. Okay. So if only he could stop bumping for a moment and think of it. Bump, bump, bump. Yeah, it makes it hard to think. And then he feels that perhaps there isn't. So maybe after a while he realizes maybe there isn't a better way. So perhaps is the same as maybe. So maybe there isn't a better way to go down the stairs. Bumping your head is just good. Anyhow, here he is at the bottom of the stairs, and ready to be introduced to you, Winnie-the-Pooh. Okay. So a little bit tricky first paragraph. I'll read it one more time and then we can move on. So here is Edward Bear coming downstairs now, bump, 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 on the back of his head, behind Christopher Robin. It is, as far as he knows, the only way of coming downstairs, but sometimes he feels that there really is another way. If only he could stop bumping for a moment and think of it. And then he feels perhaps there isn't. Anyhow, here he is at the bottom and ready to be introduced to you. Winnie-the-Pooh. Okay. When I first heard his name, I said, just as you are going to say, but I thought he was a boy. So did I, said Christopher Robin. So the name Winnie-the-Pooh. So when I first heard his name, I said, just as you are going to say, but I thought he was a boy. Now, why is it this question? Well, Winnie sounds kind of like a girl's name. Usually, if you hear the name Winnie, it's going to be a girl. But this bear is a boy. And so the narrator, the person speaking, says, when I first heard his name. So the first time I heard the name Winnie-the-Pooh, I said, just as you are going to say, but I thought he was a boy. So this is a question, but it just sounds like a statement. But I thought he was a boy. So they're saying that this name, Winnie, it sounds like a girl's name. It doesn't match that the bear is a boy. And so did I, said Christopher Robin. So Christopher Robin thought Winnie-the-Pooh is a boy too. Okay? Then you can't call him Winnie? I don't. But you said he's Winnie-the-Pooh. Don't you know what the means? So the narrator says, you can't call him Winnie. So you can't say Winnie because that's a girl's name, right? And then Christopher Robin says, I don't call him Winnie. It's like, wait, what? You don't call him Winnie? But you said... So the narrator is thinking, wait a second, you just said his name is Winnie-the-Pooh. We can't call him Winnie? And Christopher Robin says, no. We can't call him Winnie. He's Winnie-the-Pooh. Now, this is kind of strange, right? You see T-H-E-R. Now, I thought this was strange too, but what it is there's no word T-H-E-R, but in the story, Christopher Robin is trying to say the word the really strong. to make it so you can hear it. So he's Winnie the Pooh. You can hear when instead of Winnie the Pooh, Winnie the Pooh. And Christopher Robin is trying to make it clear that the bear's name is not just Winnie. The bear's name is Winnie the Pooh, like one word. Winnie the Pooh. Don't you know what the means? So it's written T-H-E-R because it's supposed to be like Christopher Robin is saying it really strong. Usually we don't write this, but just for this story. I was a little confused at first too. So, keep on going. So, it's a boy bear. The name is not Winnie, a girl's name. The name is Winnie the Pooh, like one word. Okay? And then the narrator says, "Ah, yes, now I do," I said quickly. "And I hope you do too, because it is all the explanation you are going to get." So, Christopher Robin says, "Don't you understand?" And, "Oh, yes, now I do." And the narrator says, "I hope you understand," because Christopher Robin is not going to explain. So, this is kind of like sometimes children tell you something and you just go, okay, fine. So Christopher Robin is saying the name is Winnie the Pooh, even though it's a boy, but the name is one word. But anyways, let's keep going. Sometimes Winnie the Pooh likes a game of some sort when he comes downstairs. And sometimes he likes to sit quietly in front of the fire and listen to a story. This evening, Winnie the Pooh likes a game of some sort when he comes downstairs. So sometimes Winnie wants to play a game, like maybe a board game. And sometimes he likes to sit quietly in front of the fire and listen to a story. So the narrator is saying that Winnie the Pooh likes to do this, but who really likes to do it? Well, Christopher Robin. Christopher Robin likes to play games and likes to listen to stories. So, this evening, "What about a story?" said Christopher Robin. "What about a story?" I said. "Could you very sweetly tell Winnie the Pooh one?" "I suppose I could," I said. "What sort of stories does he like?" "About himself, because he's that sort of bear." "Oh, I see. So, could you very sweetly?" "I'll try," I said. So I tried. So, what is happening? We said that we talked about Winnie the Pooh's name. It's a girl. Winnie is a girl's name, but Christopher Robin says Winnie the Pooh is not a girl's name, so it's okay. And then Christopher Robin wants to hear a story, but we say that Winnie the Pooh wants to hear a story. And so, back to this conversation. What about a story? This sentence, Christopher Robin is kind of saying like, how about a story? How about a story? Like, another way to say, can I hear a story? Oops, what happened? Oh, there we go. So can I hear a story? How about a story? Is that a good idea? So what about a story? And because Christopher Robin doesn't actually ask, can I hear a story? He just says, what about a story? The father says, what about a story? So the father is saying, hey, could you be more clear? Tell me what you want. What about a story? Tell me. And then Christopher Robin tells what he meant. could you very sweetly tell Winnie-the-Pooh one? So very sweetly. Sweetly is like kindly. Like, this is people don't usually use the word sweetly like this, but Christopher Robin is saying please in a way. Like, could you please tell Winnie-the-Pooh one? Could you very sweetly tell Winnie-the-Pooh one? Or maybe he's saying, could you say it in a very sweet, kind way? Okay? And then the narrator says, I suppose I could. I suppose is similar to I guess. Like, okay, that sounds fine. I suppose I can. So, I guess I could. I guess I could tell a story. That sounds okay. What sort of stories does he like? So, what kind of stories does Winnie-the-Pooh like? So, sort of is what kind of, or what type of story does Winnie-the-Pooh like? And then Christopher Robin says, about himself, because he's that sort of bear. So, these people are not saying full sentences because it's part of a conversation. Could you tell Winnie-the-Pooh a story? Yes, I could. What sort of stories? About himself. So about himself means stories about himself. So stories about Winnie-the-Pooh. Because he's that sort of bear. What kind of bear would that be? Well, maybe a bear who likes himself too much. Or maybe he's something like that. Somebody who likes to hear stories about themselves. Maybe they're a little selfish or something. And then the narrator says, oh, I see. So could you very sweetly? I'll try, I said. So I tried. And so that's the introduction, getting to the beginning of the story. So this is in the real world. Christopher Robin is talking to his father. And then in the story, we go into the magic world where Winnie-the-Pooh can walk and talk. Okay? So, let's get to the story. You ready? So, once upon a time, a very long time ago now, about last Friday, Winnie-the-Pooh lived in a forest all by himself under the name of Sanders. So, once upon a time is a very common way to start a story. So we don't know when it happened or when it started, but sometime. Once upon a time. A very long time ago now. If you hear this, what do you think? Maybe 200 years ago or 500 years ago. But a very long time ago now, about last Friday. So this is kind of a funny way to write it. A very long time ago, you think, oh, like years and years ago. But about last Friday, it was only maybe a week ago. So a little bit of a funny thing. Winnie-the-Pooh lived in a forest all by himself under the name of Sanders. Now, if you say this under the name of Sanders, it sounds like he uses that name. Like, hello, my name is Sanders. Or my name is Winnie-the-Pooh Sanders. That's what it sounds like using this phrase. Under the name of. Like if you go to a hotel, you might say, oh, there's a room under the name of Kyle. Meaning that there's a room with my name on it. So it sounds like Winnie-the-Pooh's using the name Sanders. That's kind of funny. But then here's a part from the real world. What does under the name mean? Asked Christopher Robin. It means he had the name over the door in gold letters and lived under it. So actually, it's not that he's using the name Sanders, it's that he had the name over his door. You can see here, Mr. Sanders. It's kind of funny. So maybe Winnie the Pooh does say, oh, this is Winnie-the-Pooh Sanders. And then keep going. Winnie-the-Pooh wasn't quite sure, said Christopher Robin. Now I am, said a growly voice. Then I will go on, said I. So Christopher Robin asked a question, but then Christopher Robin says, oh, I wasn't asking the question. Winnie the Pooh wasn't sure. So Winnie the Pooh wanted to know what under the name meant. So this is what a lot of kids will do. They ask a question, but say, oh no, I know, but my toy didn't know the answer. So Winnie the Pooh wasn't quite sure, said Christopher Robin. No, I am, said a growly voice. Growly means the voice sounds like a bear. No, I am. This is Christopher Robin pretending to be Winnie the Pooh. Then I will go on, said I. Here, go on means continue. So the father will continue the story. Okay? Let's see. And so Winnie the Pooh is in the forest. Now, this part. One day, when he was out walking, he came to an open place in the middle of the forest. And in the middle of this place was a large oak tree. And from the top of the tree, there came a loud buzzing noise. Buzz. So, I don't think this is too hard. If there are parts that aren't too tricky, we can just keep moving. If you have any questions, please let me know. So, one day when he was out walking, he came to an open place in the middle of the forest. An open place, meaning that it's in the middle of the forest, so there are many, many trees. An open place means an empty place, maybe a place with no trees. So it could be like a little field or a meadow in the middle of the forest. A meadow is a good word to know. A meadow is, like if there are trees around, but there's one circle that's just grass and flowers. That's called a meadow. You can Google meadow and see some pictures of meadows. And then in the middle of this place was a large oak tree. An oak tree is one kind of tree. And from the top of the tree, there came a loud buzzing noise. Now, this is another sound word, buzz. It sounds just like what the word looks like, buzz. And what animal makes that sound? Well, are bees. Bees buzz. Okay? And why is that important? Well, what do bears like to eat? Bears like to eat honey. So Winnie the Pooh might want to eat some honey today. And so he heard some bees. He's not scared. He's thinking about the honey. So Winnie the Pooh sat down at the foot of the tree, put his head between his paws, and began to think. First of all, he said to himself, "That buzzing noise means something. You don't get a buzzing noise like that, just buzzing and buzzing, without its meaning something. If there's a buzzing noise, somebody's making a buzzing noise, and the only reason for making a buzzing noise that I know of is because you're a bee." Then he thought another long time and said, "And the only reason for being a bee that I know of is making honey." And then he got up and said, "And the only reason for making honey is so as I can eat it. So he began to climb the tree. Okay, this section's a little bit tricky because Winnie-the-Pooh is a little bit silly, a little bit strange. So Winnie-the-Pooh sat down at the foot of the tree. Now that's a funny phrase. Does a tree have a foot? Well, no, it doesn't have feet, but you can say the foot of something, meaning the bottom of something, like the bottom, or the edge close to the bottom. So you could say he sat at the foot of the tree, or someone sat at the foot of the stairs, meaning they sit at the very end, the very bottom of the stairs, something like that. So Winnie-the-Pooh sat at the foot of the tree, put his head between his paws, and began to think. Now remember, for people, we have hands. For animals, they have paws. So he puts his head between his paws. First of all, he said to himself. So this phrase means it's the first thing he did, but you can say it almost like it's one word. First of all. The T sticks to the of, and then the F kind of sticks to the all. First of all. First of all. So first of all. First of all. First of all, he said to himself, that buzzing noise means something. Okay? It means something. What? You don't get a buzzing noise like that, just buzzing and buzzing, without its meaning something. So he says there's a sound, and that's just, it has to have a reason for that sound. You don't just get random buzzing, right? There has to be some place it comes from. So he says, if there's a buzzing noise, somebody's making a buzzing noise. So he knows if he hears buzzing, someone is making that sound. And the only reason for making a buzzing noise that I know of is because you're a bee. So why would someone make a buzz sound? Well, that's because they're a bee. Okay? So kind of a funny way to think for Winnie-the-Pooh. And this phrase that I know of is a good phrase. This is kind of like what we said before, as far as I know. A little bit. We use it in a similar way. Like you're showing that you don't know exactly, but you think that's why. Like, as far as I know, the best place for pizza is Tony's Pizza Place. Or you could say it, so use as far as I know at the beginning of the sentence. Or you could use that I know of to describe something. So the best pizza place that I know of is Tony's Pizza Place. So there might be a better one out there, but that's the only one that I know. Okay? So I might say, oh, the cutest teddy bear that I know of is Winnie-the-Pooh. Maybe there are other cuter bears, but he's the only one I know. Okay? So the only reason for making a buzzing noise that I know of is because you're a bee. So maybe there's another reason to go buzz, buzz, buzz. But for Winnie, he says that the only reason he knows is because you're a bee. Other people don't make buzzing just for fun. And then he thought another long time and said, and the only reason for being a bee that I know of is making honey. So a little bit funny. The reason for being a bee is making honey. So why are you a bee? Because you want to make honey. That's kind of a funny way to think, right? But, oops, this is Winnie-the-Pooh. He's a little bit silly. So why are you a bee? Because you want to make honey. And then he got up and said, the only reason for making honey is so as I can eat it. So why are you making honey? Well, so as I can eat it. The grammar here is a little bit weird, but what he means is that why make honey? It's so that Winnie-the-Pooh can eat the honey. Okay? So as I can eat it. And so what does Winnie-the-Pooh decide to do? I heard buzzing, there's bees, there's honey, and the honey is for me. I should go get it. So he began to climb the tree. Okay? We'll do a little bit more and then we can call it a day. So, he climbed and he climbed and he climbed. And as he climbed, he sang a little song to himself. It went like this. Isn't it funny how a bear likes honey? Buzz, buzz, buzz. I wonder why he does. So, isn't it funny how a bear likes honey? So, don't you think it's funny or interesting that a bear likes honey? Buzz, buzz, buzz. I wonder why he does. Why he does like honey. So I wonder why bears like honey. I don't know. So Winnie is climbing and singing this song. Then he climbed a little further, and a little further, and then just a little further. By that time, he had thought of another song. So he sang, lo, 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 climbs, climbs, climbs. New idea, new song to sing. So he climbed a little further and a little further. By that time, so when he got to that time, it's like by that time, he had thought of another song. So he's climbing, 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 and then he sings, It is a very funny thought that, if bears were bees, they'd build their nests at the bottom of trees. And that being so, if the bees were bears, we shouldn't have to climb up all these stairs. So Winnie is climbing and thinking about, how it could be different. It is a very funny thought that, if bears were bees, so if bears were bees and they wanted their honey, they'd build their nests at the bottom of trees. So if bears were bees, they would build their nests on the ground so they don't have to climb. And that being so that being so is a way to say, if that were true. If that were true, ... So, and that being so, if the bees were bears, we shouldn't have to climb up all these stairs. Now, is he really climbing stairs? No, he's climbing branches of a tree. But stairs rhymes with bears. And it's kind of like stairs. We shouldn't have to climb up all these stairs. So Winnie is climbing and wishes that the honey was on the ground and easier to get to, because he's going up, 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 up the tree. Okay, keep going. He was getting rather tired by this time, so that is why he sang a complaining song. He was nearly there now, and if he just stood on that branch, crack! Oh, help! Said Pooh, as he dropped 10 feet on the branch below him. Uh-oh. So Winnie-the-Pooh is climbing, climbing, getting rather tired. This word rather, sometimes we use it to compare things, like I would rather blah, blah, blah. You might know that. But here, it's rather, he says rather tired. The word rather is kind of like quite tired, or like pretty tired. or kind of tired. Okay? So he's getting pretty tired. He was getting kind of tired. He was getting rather tired. So that's how we use rather to describe an adjective. He was getting rather tired by this time. So that is why he sang a complaining song. So I wish we knew the complaining song, but Winnie-the-Pooh has a song where he complains. Maybe he goes, sings and sings about how annoying things are. It's kind of cute. Maybe we should do that. If we're tired and angry, we start to sing. Okay. He was nearly there now. Here the word nearly is almost. He was almost there. Where is there? Well, to his goal. Saying you're nearly there or you're almost there means you're almost finished. So he was nearly there now. And if he just stood on that branch, he just needs to stand on one more. Crack! So Winnie-the-Pooh must have stood on a branch and he's too heavy. Maybe his big tummy. Crack! The branch broke. Oh, help! Said Pooh as he dropped 10 feet on the branch below him. So he dropped 10 feet. So Winnie-the-Pooh is falling. 10 feet is a little more than 3 meters. Or it's close to 3 meters. A little bit more, I think. So that's a pretty big drop, right? Okay. And then let's read just this section and then we can stop for today. If only I hadn't, he said, as he bounced 20 feet onto the next branch. So he didn't get to finish what he was thinking. If only I hadn't, blah, blah, blah. This is a phrase for like regret. I wish I didn't do something. Oh, if only I hadn't stepped on that branch, or if only I hadn't eaten so much for lunch, I would be lighter. We don't know what he's thinking, but if only I hadn't, he said, as he bounced 20 feet onto the next branch. So he's falling and hits a branch, boing, and bounces 20 feet. Oh my gosh. And then he keeps talking to himself. You see, what I meant to do, ... What I meant to do, he explained, as he turned head over heels and crashed onto another branch 30 feet below. What I meant to do means what I wanted to do. Wanted to do. Or what he was trying to do. Okay? So you mean to do something, you were trying to do it, but you failed. So what I meant to do, so again, he's talking to himself, but he's not finishing his ideas. He explained as he turned head over heels. Now, you know your head, but your heels are the bottom of your feet. You can see the picture of Winnie-the-Pooh. That is his heel. So head over heels means you're upside down. Okay? He turned head over heels and crashed onto another branch 30 feet below. 30 feet, divide by 3 to get meters. So about 10 meters below. Oh my gosh. So Winnie-the-Pooh is falling really, really far. This poor guy. And then he keeps talking to himself, talking about what he wish he did. Of course, it was rather, he admitted, as he slithered very quickly through the next 6 branches. So he's admitting something. He's saying, oh, okay, maybe I made a mistake. Give me space. Of course, it was rather, again, the word rather is like quite or kind of. So it was rather silly of me to do something, or it was rather dangerous or something. He admitted. So he's saying, okay, now I'm saying I made a mistake. as he slithered very quickly through the next 6 branches. Slithered is a word talking about how snakes move. But you can imagine Winnie-the-Pooh slithering through branches as he falls, meaning he goes like around the branches. This poor guy. It all comes, I suppose, he decided, as he said goodbye to the last branch, spun round 3 times, and flew gracefully into a gorse bush. It all comes of liking honey so much. Oh, help! So, it all comes, I suppose. This is not a finished idea, so don't worry about misunderstanding this. It all comes ... Again, I suppose means I guess or I think. He decided as he said goodbye to the last branch. So he hit a branch, and said goodbye. He's flying away. Spun round 3 times, so he spins in the air, and flew gracefully into a gorse bush. So he flies through the air, spins, and lands in a bush. He flew gracefully. Gracefully is like elegantly or beautifully. So even though Winnie-the-Pooh is crashing into branches and falling through the sky, when he's falling, it's very graceful. It looks very nice, actually. And he flew gracefully into a gorse bush. Now, this is something I didn't know before reading the story. A bush is a kind of plant. You should know that one. But a gorse bush is a kind of plant with lots of little spiky, prickly things. It's very sharp. So you can see in the next picture this kind of bush, and there are little things stuck in Winnie-the-Pooh's butt. Ouch. So that's a gorse bush. And he flew into the gorse bush. It all comes of liking honey so much. So it all comes of, meaning it's all because of, is what he says. It's because of liking honey so much. Meaning he fell and got hurt because he likes honey too much. Okay? So, it all comes of liking honey so much. Oh, help! As he falls. And then, boom! He crashes into the bush. He crawled out of the gorse bush, brushed the prickles from his nose, and began to think again. And the first person he thought of was Christopher Robin. So, Winnie-the-Pooh falls out of the sky, crashes into the bush, and now he crawls out, and he has all these things stuck in his nose, in his face, in his butt. Okay? So he crawled out of the gorse bush. Crawl means like using your hands and feet to come out. Brushed the prickles from his nose. Prickles means these little sharp things. And he has some stuck to his nose. And he brushes them. He brushes them off. And then he began to think again. How can I get that honey? The first person he thought of was Christopher Robin. So, here is where we can stop reading. We're about halfway. But Winnie-the-Pooh tries to get the honey from the top of this tree. He can hear buzzing. He knows there are bees up there. So he climbs the tree. But what happens? He tried to stand on a branch, and the branch broke. And then he fell tumbling and rolling in the air. Boom, 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 hitting the branches. And then he fell in a bush. But lucky for Winnie-the-Pooh, he's not hurt. He's okay. Just a little bit shaken up. And he wants to go meet his friend Christopher Robin and get some help. Okay? So, how about we rewind and read through this part of the story one more time. We won't go super slow. We'll start with the once upon a time part, okay? So we'll read the part about Winnie-the-Pooh in the forest. So try to follow along and try to remember some of the things we talked about. So, once upon a time, a very long time ago now, about last Friday, Winnie-the-Pooh lived in a forest all by himself under the name of Sanders. And skip ahead. One day, when he was out walking, he came to an open place in the middle of the forest. And in the middle of this place was a large oak tree. And from the top of the tree, there came a loud buzzing noise. Winnie-the-Pooh sat down at the foot of the tree, put his head between his paws, and began to think. First of all, he said to himself, "That buzzing noise means something. You don't get a buzzing noise like that, just buzzing and buzzing, without its meaning something. If there's a buzzing noise, somebody's making a buzzing noise. And the only reason for making a buzzing noise that I know of is because you're a bee." Then he thought another long time and said, "And the only reason for being a bee that I know of is making honey." And then he got up and said, "And the only reason for making honey is so as I can eat it." So he began to climb the tree. He climbed and he climbed and he climbed. And as he climbed, he sang a little song to himself. It went like this. "Isn't it funny how a bear likes honey? Buzz, buzz, buzz. I wonder why he does." Then he climbed a little further, and a little further, and then just a little further. By that time, he had thought of another song. "It's a very thought that, if bears were bees, they'd build their nests at the bottom of trees. And that being so, if the bees were bears, we shouldn't have to climb up all these stairs." He was getting rather tired by this time, so that is why he sang a complaining song. He was nearly there now, if he could, and if he just stood on that branch, crack! "Oh, help!" said Pooh, as he dropped 10 feet on the branch below him. "If only I hadn't," he said, as he bounced 20 feet onto the next branch. "You see, what I meant to do," he explained, as he turned head over heels and crashed onto another branch 30 feet below. "What I meant to do. Of course, it was rather," he admitted, as he slithered very quickly through the next 6 branches. "It all comes, I suppose," he decided, as he said goodbye to the last branch, spun around 3 times, and flew gracefully into a gorse bush. "It all comes of liking honey so much. Oh, help!" He crawled out of the gorse bush, brushed the prickles from his nose, and began to think again. And the first person he thought of was Christopher Robin. And that's where we can stop for today. So next time, we can continue our story and see what happens when Winnie-the-Pooh goes to visit Christopher Robin. And we'll see, can Christopher Robin help Winnie-the-Pooh get the honey? What could they do? What kind of stuff do they need to help them get that honey? How do they get to the nest of the bees? Well, we'll find out next time when Winnie-the-Pooh tries to get to the top of that tree. What do you think they'll do? Well, we can find out next time. So thank you so much for joining. I hope you had a good time today. I think this story is really cute and fun, and I hope you learned some new words or new ways to say something. Or if you know all the words, maybe this is good practice and a little bit of fun. So next time we'll finish this little story about Winnie the Pooh and his honey, and maybe we can continue with some other Winnie the Pooh stories if you think they're fun and cute and useful. That's the most important part, right? So let's stop here for today. Thank you so much for joining. I hope you had a good time, and go get some honey. And if you have a teddy bear, give it a big hug. Okay? So thank you, everyone. Have a wonderful day, and I'll see you next time. Okay? Bye-bye.